Hey everybody, my name is Amanda Tosoff, and I'm a jazz pianist, composer, and educator based in Toronto, Ontario. And welcome to Music Arts Collective's live stream. I am 1/3 of Music Arts Collective. The other 2/3, we have one of our special guests today is Jody Prosnick, our other co-artistic director. And our executive director, Francesca Fung, is managing the chat. So please type in the chat and say hello to Francesca and let us know where you're chiming in from, because we want to know where you are in this big wide world. So really excited about today. We have, like I said, our music arts co-artistic director, Jody Prosnick, and a fabulous trio that she's part of called Triology. And I'm really, really excited to tell you more about these wonderful musicians and get chatting with them shortly. Before we do, if you're new to our live stream series, this is number 17. We've been doing this since September. And we've had some wonderful special guests. We've had Celine Peterson, Lila Bialy, Heather Bambrick. Last week we had David Restivo and my hero Rudy Rosnes a few months ago. So we've had some really wonderful conversations on a wide variety of topics. And so if you've missed them, please feel free to go to our YouTube channel and subscribe, and you can watch them all there. You can also check out our website, musicartscollective.com. We have some workshops. Recently, we did one on jazz composition. We did a beginner jazz piano, bass lines, improvisation, and many more resources, including some free ones as well. So you can go check that out. And yeah, so today, super excited to interview three of my favorite musicians, the jazz trio Triology, which is comprised of Miles Black on piano, Bill Kuhn on guitar, and Jody Prosnick on bass. And these are three musicians I grew up listening to. I'm from Vancouver. They're all based in Vancouver. And they're just three of my favorite musicians. And yeah, what I love about this trio is the interplay that they have between each musician. They're tight and creative arrangements, and as Jody says, they're heart-shaped. Oh, heart-shaped. There we go. Quarter notes. They really swing. They really groove, and you can also just hear this long-standing years of friendship in their music. So I'm really excited to talk to them today. Let me tell you just a little bit about the three of them, and then we'll bring them on. So let's start with Bill Kuhn. So Bill Kuhn is an amazing guitarist. He's originally from Montreal, but has been based in Vancouver for many years. He's worked with so many wonderful musicians, including some jazz greats like Jimmy Heath, Eddie Daniels, Dr. Lonnie Smith. And he's released many albums and played on many albums, including my favorite, his recent BC double quartet, which features jazz quartet and string quartet, and it's some beautiful arrangements and lush, beautiful harmonies. So go check that out. We also have Miles Black, a versatile pianist and composer. He can really play any style and play like any of the jazz greats. But of course, he also has his unique, distinctive voice, and he's just amazing. One of my favorites. And actually, he did have, I think, 1 or 2 lessons with him many years ago. They were jam-packed. And he's recorded and played with many players, including the great Max Roach, Lou Tabakin, Houston Pearson, and Harry Sweets Edison as well. So Miles Black. And then we have Jody Prosnick, our music arts co-artistic director, and she is on the bass chair of this wonderful trio. And of course, she's not only a wonderful educator, she is an amazing bassist, and she's one of Canada's top call artists for sure. And she leads her own quartet, but is also a member of many groups, including Triology, of course, and has accompanied many jazz greats, Lewis Nash, George Coleman, David Fathead Newman, Ed Thigpen, and many others. So let's welcome Triology, Miles Black, Bill Kuhn, and Jody Prosnick. Here we go.
Hello.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
So nice to see you guys. It's been many years.
Thanks for having us on.
Thanks for being here. And thanks, Jody, for being a special guest today. We're usually co-hosting these interviews.
I'm a little more relaxed today, so I just chill out.
All the pressure's on me. No,
Yes.
just joking. Yeah, so welcome, and I'm really excited to talk to you guys about your history and what you guys are up to. So really some exciting collaborations happening. So we're going to talk about that, and yeah, so maybe we can start with what we've been asking all of our guests is, we want to explore the early story. So I'd love to just hear from each of you, just about your musical background. When did you discover jazz and when did you decide that this was your path? And, maybe were there any important mentors along the way that really helped, light that spark in music? So maybe we'll start with Miles.
Oh, hi, everybody. I fell in love with jazz at 13, and a friend of my dad's gave me 7 jazz vinyl records, which I still have. And there were a wide range of jazz recordings, some Roland Kirk, some really outside John Coltrane, like the latest stages of his career, like Meditations and Expressions, and stuff with Alice Coltrane, with fascinating music. And also Time Out, which is the classic Dave Brubeck recording that seems like everybody kind of glommed onto at some point. And also Kind of Blue. And so it was such a crazy range of music, and I thought it all fell under the umbrella of jazz. So as a 13-year-old, I was very fortunate to have had such a broad exposure to many types of jazz, which I think that had a profound effect. And then I had a wonderful teacher at that age named George Essihas in Victoria, who was a masterful classical pianist, but had been discovering jazz for about 6 years and really working on exploring it in a modal way. And his emphasis was on creating the most spectacularly beautiful sound on the piano that you could possibly create. And every time he played piano, it was like he was so in love with it, and it was so magical. And he was a fan of what I guess, is sometimes referred to as the Chopin technique. He was a proponent of the Abby Whiteside school of piano playing, which is very flat hands and very flowing, and it's kind of a Tai Chi approach really to piano. And so that had a big effect on my development, along with, of course, those 7 or 8 very classic records, and then all the albums that he exposed me to. So that was how I started off. And then at 14, I was playing professionally in Victoria. It's a small town, so it wasn't too hard to get jazz work, fortunately. And I was lucky enough to have a steady gig at Pagliacci's every Monday night. Thank you, Howie Siegel, with a quartet. And when we started playing, Amanda, and we didn't actually know that you were, I was so new that we didn't know we were supposed to play over the changes. So we would play Wave or a standard like Blue Monk or something. And then we would just improvise on whatever we felt like by listening to each other. And it was just completely free jazz with no adherence to structure, or just kind of a feeling of wave, So we'd say, oh, wave. So we could play like waves of sound. And I'll tell you, I wish I could go back to that naivete, because when I found out that we were not doing it the correct way, some guy came in and gave us a big lecture and said, no, you kids are doing it all wrong. It was kind of soul crushing, and then we had to rebuild up to learn all that theory and play a 32 bar form. But anyway, that's how that sort of started off for me, almost like free jazz, really.
I love that, and I wish I could hear a recording of you guys playing. I would just absolutely love that.
Yeah.
I'll dig
very
one
West
up.
Coast, very West Coast.
Yes,
Very, very, very West Coast. Very West Coast.
totally.
So West Coasty.
So great. Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
Great story.
Yeah. How about you, Bill?
Yeah, I did fall in love with jazz right away. When I first heard it, I thought it sounded very confusing. And my friend Andre White, that I think all of us know here. Miles, have you ever run into Andre? Maybe you haven't.
No, I mean, I saw him play once.
We should get him out to play drums with us sometime. I'll just put that out in the universe.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah.
We need to get him out here. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so we were both teenagers, and he introduced me to jazz. His father had a huge record collection, like huge, like an entire wall of jazz records of people I'd never heard before. I'd pull out a record and I'd say, "Who's Charlie Parker?" And Andre would go, "You don't know who Charlie Parker is?" I don't know who any of these people are. So eventually we started playing in a group together, and we actually really focused on sort of funk jazz, like the CTI recordings from the '70s with George Benson and Herbie Hancock playing electric piano, and that was our jazz. So we weren't free, but we were just vamping on one chord, maybe two chords if we were lucky. So that was my early jazz experience. And later on, I like lots of wonderful teachers. Most of them weren't guitar players. It was really interesting. Like I had a great improv teacher named Art Roberts from Montreal, and a great arranging teacher named Al Baculus. And Al was a great character. Well, they were both great characters, because they were from the era where they didn't learn any of their stuff in school, So you would ask Al, well, why can't you put a flat 9 on this chord? And he would look at you and go, well, you can, but you'll never work in this town again.
That's a great. Yeah.
So I was really lucky to sort of meet these type of, real characters of jazz who just kind of learn the hard way. And one of my first guitar teachers, this is kind of weird, but it was a classical teacher. And then later on, one of my first real guitar teachers was Jim Hall. It's kind of strange to say that, but that was one of my first big, not introductions, because I was already playing jazz, but he really opened my eyes to how to approach music in general, not just the guitar. And it was really invaluable to have met him and study with him for a while.
That must have been amazing.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. And how about you, Jody?
Oh, the beginning story. Mine is, well, in terms of jazz, well, obviously, I grew up in a house where my father was a band teacher, and he was, the high school band teacher. So I would say my earliest important figure would be him. And it was really his fault that I played the bass, because I played oboe for a year and it didn't go very well. And I was nervous to tell him I didn't want to play oboe anymore, because I knew he wanted an oboe player in his concert band. So I wrote him a letter saying, I don't want to play oboe anymore. What else do you need? And he said, I need a bass player in the grade 9 big band. And you'd get to go on band trips in grade 8, even though you really have to wait till grade 9. I was like, that is awesome. I don't know how to play the bass, but so we went to the store and rented an electric bass and a little book. Like I remember it was like a thin, long book that's like beginner bass. And the cool thing was Dad didn't know how to play the bass. So he couldn't tell me what to do. He was just like, I think these are the names of the notes. EATG. So, but that first band trip was the Lionel Hampton, Idaho Jazz Festival. And I saw Ray Brown play when I was 13. And Gene Harris and Elvin Jones and Dizzy Gillespie and Lionel Hampton and Al Gray. And so a little later, we saw young Roy Hargrove and Antonio Hart and Greg Hutchinson and Hank Jones. So I remember being 13 and totally excited. I was on this band trip and with all of my friends, and I was young, and I watched Ray Brown do a solo bass piece at the front of the Kibbe Dome at the Idaho University. Cool. And I just thought, oh my gosh, like, what is that? Gene Harris and Jeff Hamilton. I thought, this is the most joyful thing I'd ever heard in my life. But of course, there was no like, I'm going to do that. It was just like, wow, that's making me feel so good right now. So that was a formative moment. And then we were just playing in the band room. And I was playing electric bass and piano in the big band. And then eventually the guys they were really serious, some really serious young musicians in the program. That band program tended to, like, Rob Hamilton was studying with Ollie like at 12, right? So, and they were like learning how to do stuff. So just being around that community in the school, everyone started listening to jazz records. So, I remember we'd be driving around and listening to Sonny Rollins' The Bridge. And, of course, my father had a really robust record collection too. So earliest memories of putting record, but he had everything from like, Monk to Donny Hathaway to Cheech and Chong to like Zeppelin, Otis Redding, classical albums, like you name it. So those records were important. Yeah. And then I started upright at 16. Because the guys were like, we want you to play that because that's what Paul Chambers plays. So I was like, okay, I'll try. So I didn't have a lesson on the upright. I just sort of tried to figure it out. I had the wonderful Steve Johnson, who's a staple out in the South Surrey area in terms of jazz education. He showed me how to get from one root to another, go root, chromatic to the next root, chromatic. That's how you do it. I'm like, okay. So I just sort of figured it out. We had a steady little gig on the White Rock Beach for $20 and a burger at the No Name, or not, it was called, I can't remember the name of it, but yeah. And we'd go and we'd, again, totally play tunes. We didn't know what we were doing, but little quartet gig. And I wound up at McGill, which was hilarious because I hadn't studied bass at all. So I didn't really study bass until I got to McGill. And then I had Michelle Donato and Eric Lagacé and Alec Walkington, three of my favorite bass players ever around. They helped me sort of start to figure out how the bass works and how to get around it. And of course, all the professors that were there at the time and my peers. And probably the most important person in terms of my development is my now husband. He was a little older than me and a lot more experienced, and was such a wealth of really great information at key moments. So I have to say he's one of those people who definitely has lit my spark along the way. And musical spark. So so that's my story.
I love it. Thank you everyone for sharing that, because it's great to know a little bit about your early story. Having listened to you guys for so many years, it just makes so much sense. These really early formative experiences that you guys just described, I can totally hear how that impacted your music. So that's so fun. Thank you. So I'd love to know a little bit more about Triology. You guys have been a trio for quite some time, and I'm sure you've played in so many formats and different bands, but I think you've been a trio since 2008, right? I'm wondering if you guys can talk a little bit about this, how this band came to be, and why you three. Like, what musical qualities do you love about each other? Like, what brought you together and has kept you together for this long?
Well, Miles should talk about how the band started.
Is it my fault?
Yeah,
your fault.
Because it's your
Why are
fault.
you picking on me, Bill? Well, it started off as a tribute to Oscar Peterson, and I think they had four or three different trios representing Oscar in his different phases of his career. And so the producers thought, they asked me, and I said, yeah, I'd like to put a trio together. And I thought it'd be fun to, I may be getting this incorrect, folks, sorry, but I thought it'd be fun to have a trio that represented the earliest phase of Oscar's trio career, which somewhat mimicked Nat King Cole's trio, which was a drummerless trio that had guitar and upright bass and piano. So that aspect of Oscar's trio career was always very interesting to me because I'm such a fan of that sound. I mean, I love guitar. Obviously, I'm holding one right now. And I just love the sound of guitar, piano interplay with bass. And I have nothing against drummers. Obviously, many of my best friends are drummers. Tony.
Tony Chamberlain.
Tony jumped in right away. Hey,
no.
Tony's played with us. I think Dave played drums with me once.
Oh, no way. He's
so,
a good drummer.
Yeah, he's great. So anyway, that's how that started out, and it was just a concert, I think, at the Vogue Theater, perhaps.
It was really the fun. Rothstein, I think.
Yeah,
Norman
Rothstein.
Thank you. So that's how that started out, and we just loved it. And we started off with these crazy big 12-page arrangements of, trying to mimic the complexity of those Oscar Peterson things, and I came up with these ridiculous arrangements.
Great.
Silly when I think about it.
No,
but we
were
rehearsed.
awesome.
Yeah.
They were hard. We used to play gigs at O'Doul's and try to hash through these ridiculous things that were really, really hard. I mean, we had to rehearse.
Yeah.
And then we did an album that had some of those arrangements on it, our first trio album. And then one day we showed up at O'Doul's, and I think maybe Jody, you didn't bring charts or something, and we said, let's just close our eyes and play. And that's been our modus operandi since that time, which is basically 12 years now of just, we don't show up with it and we don't tell each other what we're going to play anymore. So
that's really
take turns.
we take turns so that we go around in a circle, you know. So maybe Jody might start, and she'll just start playing a tune, and sometimes she'll just start playing the bass line, and we're just hoping that we know what the hell she's going to be playing.
Do you know where that comes from? That's Michelle Donato thing.
Is that
Michelle was like,
oh, I didn't
he's
know
like,
that.
you need to be able to tell what tune I'm playing based on. I need to be able to tell what tune you're playing based on your bass line. So it's a little bit of a reference to him.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So far, it's worked, but you know, someday we're just going to start playing free. We're going to go back to Miles time where we we don't know what's going on. We're just,
I look forward to that moment.
Yeah.
And so we go around the circle, and that's how we do a set. We just keep surprising each other. And that's that part of that surprise, I think, is reflected in the music, because, you know, one of us may lay out, or one of us may start playing the melody, or, you know, I'll play the melody in the bridge, and then halfway through the bridge, Miles will jump in and play the melody. You know, like, and I remember that moment when I kind of felt like, I don't need to keep playing the melody. If Miles wants to play it now, or if I want to play it at a certain point, I'll just jump in. I remember that freedom of just, we were both kind of let go of whatever role we were playing at the time and let the other person take over. And that goes with anything, right? Because it could just be piano and guitar for a while, or just bass and guitar. Like any possible combination is possible.
And Jody, by the way, she's wicked percussionist on the bass. She does this thing like boop, boop, pop, like killer.
I love that.
So sometimes if Jody, you know, sometimes she'll just do that for a whole tune, and it's like, whoa, okay, come on, that's really fun.
My samba with the click.
So good.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a. Oh my gosh! To say this has been a formative experience playing in this. It's been a really amazing opportunity to dwell in trust and a whole lot of fun. Like, it's just fun. It's like play with really skilled people playing all at the same time, like playing as in just, it's like a wonder filled experience with these guys. We'll switch time signatures, feels. People will drop out, people will come in, we'll segue, we'll play tunes we've never played before, we'll kind of teach an original tune sort of on the spot. You know, sometimes it's just, I think in a lot of ways, it kind of reinforces what jazz at its very core is, which is democratic. It's a democratic dialogue, and you can do it with jazz standards. You could be free, so the boundaries could change and shift. It could be highly arranged, or it could be nothing's arranged and it's just in the moment. But that's cool. It can be any of those things, but it is that energy that happens within those frameworks that when you really actually care about the people you're playing with. And these two are the best listeners on the planet. They're arranging minds. So they're always kind of thinking compositionally or arranging. So sometimes the arrangements we come up with on the spot are, you know, really, really sound. You could write them down and have an arrangement, but we just go, yeah, that was good. Next, you know, let's try a new one. It's pretty cool.
Completely in the moment. That's so wonderful. Yeah, there's nothing better than playing music with people you completely trust. You know, they have your back and you can do anything. That's wonderful. Well, my next question was going to be about repertoire, but we got to that. And that's so interesting to hear. And you know, listening to, so you said your first album, Triology, that had some of those 12-page arrangements in it, all the
Yeah, we did a few of those zany arrangements, and then it was really hard. I mean, we were talking about at the time, we were saying, well, it's one thing if you're playing a gig 6-7 nights a week in a club, and you can just let go of the paper after a while and become one with the arrangement and let it do its thing. But it's, for us, you know, we love playing together, but our performance opportunities are somewhat sporadic, to say the least. So the demands on our lives is, you know, as it is with all musicians, is we have such a varied career that to try to play those arrangements at the level that we wanted to play them at all the time seemed somewhat daunting. And the payoff of just playing the way we play now on an emotional level. It's just, I mean, if honestly, it's just way too much fun now. Like no paper,
Yes.
and we don't know what's going to happen, and so the audience doesn't. They know that we don't know what's going to happen. They know
Yeah,
that
we just announce it like, okay.
yeah. Jody always usually does a little preamble and says, be warned. It says, close your eyes, Jazz, and you're along for the journey along with us. Which I think for an audience, that's got to be somewhat fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So do you guys have any plans to record again anytime soon?
We've talked about it.
Sure.
Well, we're doing some live streams, so that's kind of recording a little bit, we have a live stream coming up for the Vancouver Jazz Festival on the 30th, I think. I should look at my schedule. It's the 30th, I think, at Pyatt Hall.
Yeah, 30th.
So that will be really, really fun. Yeah. And yeah, but not really, right, Bill? We don't have any like concrete plans.
No, although, we did do, maybe this is ruining one of your future questions, Amanda, but we just did a recording with Musica Intima. And
Yes.
that was triology with Craig Scott. So I guess we could call it, fourology. But that was an amazing experience. And that's actually going to be live streamed. Well, not live streamed, but it's going to be put out there. So you guys, anyone who wants to check it out can, I think, buy a ticket. It's on the June 25th, I believe. But that experience to me was really special because this is Maria Schneider's music, and I've loved her music for many, many years. I remember her first record when it first came out. It just blew me away. And this particular arrangement is written by Réjean Meroy, who I was fortunate enough to teach with for many years. And of course, Amanda, you know Réjean because you
Studied with him for years. Yes.
Yes, I'm tempted to do an imitation of him, but I'll try. I'll hold back. And I really love Réjean, and like I say, I actually taught with him because we team taught the first year students for quite a few years. And so we really got to know each other quite well. In his last year, he wrote this magnificent arrangement of this piece, Morning Walks, for I guess basically voices and jazz ensemble or jazz quartet. And that's what we did. We performed that particular arrangement. So Maria Schneider, Réjean Meroy, and triology plus Craig, and that was really a great experience.
And I think that was put in the chat for anyone who's interested in checking that out. I know I want to. That sounds beautiful.
Yeah.
So there's a link in the chat, and I think also to the Water Street Cafe on the June 26th as well. I think there's a link there.
Nice.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So there's a couple other projects you guys have coming up. I wonder if we can speak a little about really interesting collaboration with the Kwantlen First Nation. I think that's for the Langley Fine Arts Celebration of the Arts, right?
Fort Langley Jazz and Blues Festival. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, maybe Miles, you can start because you were sort of the point person initially.
I was.
Yeah.
Right. That's you're right. Yeah, Dave Quinn is the one of the artistic directors who organizes the Fort Langley Jazz Festival, which is always really fun to do in person because that little town of Fort Langley, if you ever get a chance, you folks out there listening, to go to Fort Langley one day, it's the sweetest little town on the river. East of Vancouver. It's just incredible place, and the community feeling there is hard to describe until you go there. But during the festivals, especially on a warm summer day, and they usually have a children's festival going on, and the farmers markets, and this beautiful little town, and they have jazz, and Karen and Dave do an incredible job with all the volunteers. But because of the COVID situation, certain things have changed. Obviously, we're doing some video presentations, streamed concerts, and Dave thought it would be a tremendous idea to involve triology in conjunction with Spirit Warrior, which is the Kwantlen Band's musical group, which features their singing their original songs and some traditional material with traditional instruments and in performing in their longhouse on the territory. So we have 3 original numbers. Each of us provided 1 original composition, and we're encouraging them to join us while we perform if they can, if they feel comfortable doing it. And we may join them on some of their numbers, perhaps. We're sort of working that out. And that'll be, I don't know, that's to be determined as to when exactly that will happen for a presentation as a streamed concert. But when we did our first rehearsal, it was kind of mind-blowing for us because, you know, the jazz, melding jazz with ancient, wonderful indigenous music is, I've just never heard it before. And I'm trying to wrap my head around how that's going to work. But we went in and we did our thing. We have music that we thought would suit the vibe of what they were doing, perhaps. And Jody is a very inclusive kind of lady, so she encouraged them to join us. And so we're hoping to see what happens if it becomes a true fusion of the 2 cultures, I suppose you'd say.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
love that. I want to tune in for that for sure. If you guys end up live streaming that.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Jody,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Oh no, just yeah, it's well, first of all, it felt like a privilege to be asked and invited into their sacred space and to bear witness to the beautiful music. And also, yeah, just we wanted to enter this space with a collaborative heart, and also understand that it takes time to build trust amongst musicians. That you can't, you know, that the most important thing in these collaborations, I think, is entering with humility and reverence for and celebratory energy for especially when you're in, you know, we all live in our little silos, and within the silos there's sort of best practice and there's sort of a system in place of, you know, where you're at. But when you start collaborating cross-culturally, there's a whole different way of doing things. There's different practices, there's different methodologies and intention even behind the music. So what's been really interesting right now, I think I'm going to speak for the guys, is that, you know, whether we're working with Musica Intima or the Kwantlen First Nation, this intermingling of genre is so rich right now. It takes these silos that are over here and it turns it into this circle, because there's things that Musica Intima or the Kwantlen First Nation band can do that we don't do. Like I don't do what they do, which is super beautiful and special. And it's coming from this amazing place. And then we have our own thing. And then when we bring it together, it's just, it's very exciting. And I'm going to be, you know, say it's, I actually think it's healing, you know, but you really do have to approach these, you have to be generous and humble, you know. You just, especially right now, walking into a longhouse, you know, it's a sacred space. So you really do have to just allow the art to emerge and allow the conversation to happen in its time. So that's what I've been learning from this time. And you know what? And I have to say publicly about Bill and Miles is that I can't think of 2 better people to be entering into these collaborations with, because you 2 are the epitome of generous spirits and, you know, just complete humility. It's just about the music and just serving the music always, always, always. And so this is a real treat to do this work right now, I think, for me anyway.
Yeah, I agree.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a real treat. And how powerful their music is, that indigenous music. This kind of blew me away to be in the presence of that. I don't think I've heard it live very often anyways. You know, I've seen videos and stuff, but to be in the presence of it, to be in that longhouse and to hear their voices and to hear them sing and play together was very powerful, very moving.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Wow, beautifully said. Yeah. I wish I could come and see that performance. I mean, beautiful. I'm wondering if you guys can talk about maybe just one more thing that's happening. You're working with the VSO School of Music, right? Coming up.
Yeah.
What's happening there? Who'd like to speak on that?
Well, that's
Jody.
Jody. That's Jody's department.
Oh no,
Yes.
I'm gonna let I talk too much.
Well, okay. Jody put this together several years ago. I don't know how many years ago now. But this, I'll let Jody finish it up. But this is a pretty unique situation. It's 2 1-week jazz camps that happen. And the thing that is so unique, there are 2 real things that are so unique. First of all, just of course, listening to Jody talk, you realize how she invites everyone in, right?
Yes.
And so that's what this camp is about. She invites everyone in, and she sets the tone for that. And when I say everyone, I mean anyone of any age. So one year I think we had 15-year-old and an 80-year-old in the same camp, and I've never seen that before. And I was quite impressed how that worked and how rich that made the experience. So.
Yeah, and they're playing in the same combo, Bill. Like,
Yeah.
I remember having a 13-year-old, playing drums, and there's a 75-year-old sax player, and everybody was just in it together. Age had nothing to do with it.
Mhm.
People were supporting one another. It didn't matter what the gender or what the age, any of that, or the race, and all of that. There was the common cause of let's get together work, and they have all these different combo presentations, at the end of the week, and everybody's just putting 100% in.
Yeah,
I love seeing people of all ages playing together like that.
Yeah,
Just trying to play Solar, It's amazing.
It's great.
Yeah.
So great.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's a fun experience to be part of. That's for sure. It's really great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've been doing it since 2013, I guess now. So this is our 8th year, or except we didn't do last year. So
Right.
yeah, we had a little break in there, but no, it's yeah, I think you have to sometimes, when you're given the opportunity, create what you wish you had.
Right.
I wish I had had a space like this when I was in my formative years, where you're working with practitioners who are older and experienced and have good intel, but also you're able to get that intel without some of the stress of being around people who have that intel. And sometimes it can feel just so intimidating and scary, and like to the point where people won't even come because they're just too afraid. It's too vulnerable, and they're afraid of being smacked down. So there's none of that. It's just like right from the get-go, we're like, hey, we're all just here to have fun. And look, Miles is now learning trombone. So, we're just lifelong learners too. And we're just a little further along the pathway. It's not a ladder. It's like a pathway through a park. And I have this whole thing I say at the beginning. So yeah, we're almost full. It's a popular program. And I think because people just feel nurtured, and they feel like they're getting good information, and there's lots of playing and fun, and yeah, it's good vibes. So yeah, I think we have 5 spots left in the second week, folks, if any of you want to join us. No vocalists this year, unfortunately, but we do have room for definitely horns.
Is there a website that you can go to check that out?
It's just the www.vsoschoolofmusic.com, and then you just go to the summer programs, and you'll see it there. Yeah.
Yes, and Francesca posted the Eventbrite for direct to the ticket. So if anyone's
cool.
interested, they can go right to the ticket from that link.
That's great. Yeah.
That sounds amazing, and that sounds like something I would have wanted to do when I was even now.
Yeah.
So fantastic. Well, it sounds like you guys have a busy summer ahead of you, and so many wonderful creative projects. It was really great to hear about them. So thanks for sharing, and good luck with all of them. Perhaps we can end off with our speed round, our take 5, as we call it, our take 5 questions. So we do this with all of our guests, and we've been asking the same questions for the most part. So since there's 3 of you, I'd love everyone to chime in. Maybe we should go in a particular order. How about we just go Miles, Bill, Jody, and we're going to be as speedy as we can, although it's always fun to talk in between if we want. So the first question is, what is your favorite venue to play in?
My favorite venue?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh my gosh. Well, that makes me feel bad if somebody's feelings will get hurt at some venues.
Oh, maybe we should take that question off the list, Jody.
No, no, no.
I'll just say this. I like the small venues for jazz. For me, jazz, because I started off in a Pagliacci's, which I loved playing in Victoria. I like places like that because there's a kind of an immediacy response to the audience, and you don't feel like you're on an ivory tower playing down to people.
Mhm.
So in many ways, I like the smaller the venue for me, the better. That's just my own personal thing.
Hmm.
How about you, Bill?
Oh, we're doing it that way. Okay. Well, I always loved playing the cellar because I felt like it was in a big living room. Something about the cellar and the intimacy there was quite special. But hearing Miles talk, I would say also just about any house concert I've ever done. You know, those things are amazing. Like people are there. They're usually from the neighborhood. They're relaxed. They're, you know, they're sitting comfortably and sometimes in sofas and comfy chairs, or sometimes it's outside, house concert like that. Those I think are my favorite moments.
Awesome. How about you, Jody?
Anywhere where Miles and Bill are with me.
Oh, come on
Good answer. Good answer.
Good answer.
You know, yeah, I would say I do prefer, just like Miles, the smaller intimate spaces. I played did you guys ever do the Montreal Jazz Festival? And gosh, I love the Montreal Jazz Festival. Big shout out. Love you guys. You are crazy amazing.
Yeah.
But I remember feeling very small on that big stage. Like
Sure.
our band played on and the stage was like so high up, and there was like tens of thousands of people. And I remember feeling like I felt like I was this small, and that my sound was going out like boop, like and sort of dropping like right. It was hard to. I'm used to playing to the person in the back of the room. Like I want them to feel my quarter notes, right? Like in the back of the room, right in the back. But when it just keeps going and going and going down the street, it's harder to feel like I'm reaching, like that I'm there for them. You know, it's sort of that energy of reciprocation between the audience and the person. So yeah. Oh, this is long. I'm bad. I'm bad at this game, Amanda.
I love it though. I love just hearing about
The house concerts are beautiful too. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So great. Okay, so next question is, what's your preferred time of day to be creative? So let's do Bill first.
So I think I'm guilty of enjoying the late night moments when things are very peaceful, and I always feel a bit guilty because I've heard that Bach loved the early morning, and I figure I should just be an early morning person and compose then. But yeah, evening later on. That's a sort of a special moment in the day, and certainly in the past, that's where I felt I've been at my most creative.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How about you, Miles?
Well, for me, if I get up really early, and I'm not quite awake yet, I do some pretty wild creative things musically. So that's mine. Yeah,
you're more like Bach.
Am I? Thank you. Well,
Yeah.
I'll go into the studio. I've got this tiny studio I go into sometimes, and it's very quiet in there. And if I go in really early in the morning, that's the time for me. It's pre-caffeine sort of. Yeah.
Amazing. How about you, Jody?
Probably for like composition stuff and creative music stuff. Evening. Yeah. Like if I get going, it could sometimes go till 3 a.m. for sure. Like, so yeah. The late hours in the basement with dim lights, and yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, my next question is, if you weren't a musician, what would you be interested in doing? This is a one-word answer. I'll make it speedy. or so. How about Jody first?
Oh.
You stumped her. I've never heard Jody stump before.
There's nothing else she'd rather do.
That's it.
Yeah.
Maybe a counselor.
Yeah. How about you, Bill?
I'd be a writer, like a writer of stories. That's what I do.
And how about you, Miles?
Well, my first love was painting, so I might have gotten back into visual arts. I might have taken that route had I not done music. That's sort of where I was heading.
Very cool. And how about one more question? What would be the one bit of advice you would say to your 18-year-old musician self? Why don't we start with Jody?
Oh, you're starting with me again.
Ooh.
Oh, sorry.
Don't worry. Don't
Good
worry.
advice.
It's all going to be better than you could even have dreamed. So don't waste your energy on the worry. Just have fun.
Good advice. How about you, Miles?
I don't think I trusted my instincts very much at 18, and I tended to make some strange choices. So I would say trust your instincts a bit more, and pay attention to those red flags that go up in your mind. So I think that would have been helpful advice. I'm not sure I would have listened to it, but there it is.
Also good advice. How about you, Bill?
I think I would have told myself just to enjoy the ride and be in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here, Triology. I think all the links have been posted to the upcoming gigs that you guys have. And I think also we have a link to your album, which I think can be purchased off of Jody's site. And also I think we have links to Bill and Miles's websites too. So go check out their music and go check out their shows if you're in the Vancouver area.
Well, they're online, so you can watch them online.
Oh, yes,
so
live
from
streamed,
anywhere,
right.
for sure. Mm-hmm.
Yes, amazing. Thank you so much, guys, for being here, and thanks for tuning in. And I think next week we have a wonderful vocalist, Joanna Majoko, who's going to be joining us. We're going to interview her. So come back and join us next Sunday. And thanks again, Miles Black, Bill Kuhn, and Jody Prosnick, Triology, for being here.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Amanda. Thanks, everybody.
Bye,
Thanks,
everybody.
Thanks
Have
for
a great
tuning in.
Sunday.
Namaste.
Namaste.